When the waiter asked if the rest of my group was running late, I knew something wasn't right. As a polite reaction, I smiled and said, "They're on their way." But they weren't. The table was set aside for me a week ago. I chose 6 seats, one for each person I thought would want to join me for the party. My mom, my brother Tyler, my cousin Natalie, my uncle Jack, Cam, my college best friend, and I. It looks like I was the only one who showed up, though. I wasn't mad. Not yet. I wasn't even sad. I'm just ashamed. There I was, sitting in a quiet booth in the corner next to the window. I was dressed better than normal. I even wore heels, which I didn't like. As often as I looked at the door, I half hoped that someone would burst in with a smile and an apology. But all I got was another question from the waitress about whether I was ready to order. I chose a wine from the list that I hadn't had in a long time. As the minutes went by, I tried to keep my cool and not seem upset. I opened Instagram, checked my emails, and responded to a few Slack messages from work. I did anything to avoid looking like the woman whose family had just let her down. It's possible that they were late. There could have been traffic or ping. My screen lit up with a message. A text message from my mom. I thought I would get an explanation or at least a "see you soon" when I opened it. I read, "You're not really important right now. We'll catch up soon. Enjoy your dinner." I read it again and again, as if staring at it long enough would change it into something nicer. But it didn't. That was it. That was the message. "No, I'm not sorry. No, congratulations." Just a quiet dismissal covered in fake kindness. I looked around. The restaurant was quiet except for me, my wine, and the sound of birthday songs being played over the speakers. I hadn't realized it yet, but that text wasn't just a message. It was the final confirmation of something I'd been ignoring for years. I was never part of the celebration. I was just supposed to pay for it. When I got home that night, I didn't even turn on the lights. I sat on the edge of my bed, still in heels, and stared at that message like it was a picture of a moment I didn't want to remember, but I couldn't turn away from. And all of a sudden, everything else became important too. All the little things I'd forgotten about, because that's how families are. Like the birthdays they forgot, the time I paid Natalie's rent for a month and never got a thank you or payment, or the nights Tyler called at 1 a.m. Not only was I being ignored, I was being drained. After our dad died, things slowly fell apart like a roof, with one small leak. At first, I didn't mind helping because I had a good job in marketing and made a good living. I figured, why not? I'm single, I don't have kids. It's what you do for family, right? But then it turned into a monthly thing, then an expectation, and finally a requirement. I paid off the house I hadn't lived in since I was 22. I did it piece by piece until I realized I was making almost every payment. I took over Mom's utility bills when she lost her second job. I bought Tyler a used car when he finally got his first one. I even paid for the catering at our last Thanksgiving dinner, but no one asked me how I was doing. They were too busy talking about Tyler's next big business idea. Mom would say in that soft, comforting voice, "You're just so good at managing things. Not everyone's built like you, sweetheart." And I believed her. I thought that because I was capable, I owed them something. I thought that because I could handle things, I should. I told myself I was building something: stability, safety, and a stronger version of our family. But the truth was that they were building comfort, and I was paying for it. What was worse was that I didn't even realize I was slowly disappearing until I looked up at that empty dinner table and saw 6 chairs set aside for people who didn't think I was important enough to show up for. And you know what hurts more than being forgotten? Being used and then forgotten. Tyler had asked for help with a down payment a few months before that dinner. He wasn't clear about what it was for, but he said it was for a project and that he'd pay it back within a month. I wired $2,000 to him without hearing anything back. Natalie, of all people, told me later that he used it to buy a motorcycle. He's doing something for himself, my mom said when I told her about it. It's not like he has anyone else looking out for him. I looked at her and asked, "And who's been looking out for me?" She didn't answer. Instead, she patted my hand as if I were being dramatic. "You always help. It's just who you are." Maybe it was. Maybe I was raised that way. The responsible daughter, The person who fixes things, and the person who doesn't ask for anything because everyone thinks she has everything she needs. But that night, while sitting in the dark with my shoes on and my phone screen burning into my palm, I realized something I should have known years earlier. Being strong doesn't mean you're loved more. For 5 years, they called it generosity, but I called it obligation. After that dinner, I finally started calling it what it was: debt, and not just financial debt. I don't know how long I spent that night going through old bank transfers, texts, and family photos trying to figure out when I stopped being seen. After a short pause, my phone rang again. I wasn't sure what to do. Part of me still hoped it was someone calling to say, "Sorry, we messed up," or "Are you okay?" But it wasn't. Natalie had sent me a picture. It took a second to load, but when it did, I felt something in my chest stop moving. There they were, my mom, Tyler, Natalie, and Uncle Jack. They were all smiling and holding wine glasses outside of a restaurant on the water. Tyler was in the middle, holding a shiny black motorcycle key in one hand and making the peace sign with the other. His jacket and watch looked brand new. The caption said, "Celebrating the dreamer." Finally, he got his chance. I looked at it like it was a puzzle I couldn't figure out. No one had talked about plans or going out that night. And none of them had talked about Tyler getting a new motorcycle, which I helped pay for in part with my down payment a few weeks before. Then I looked at the timestamp. My mom's message, "You're not exactly a priority right now," had been sent an hour before that picture was taken. They hadn't forgotten about me. They just chose not to show up to celebrate my promotion. Instead, they used the money I gave them to throw their own party for my brother and didn't even bother to lie about it. That kind of clarity doesn't come from fire. It comes from stillness. A silence so sharp that it cuts through every excuse you've ever made for the people who are supposed to care about you. Tyler didn't earn that moment. He took it in, and I paid for it. They called him the dreamer, the one with potential. I was just the safety net, the one who caught everyone else, and no one looked at me until she stopped holding the rope. I didn't cry that night. I didn't scream, throw my phone, or text anyone back. I just got up, took off my heels, walked to the kitchen, poured myself another glass of wine, opened my laptop, and opened a spreadsheet I hadn't looked at in months. It was labeled Family Support, Private, and Do Not Delete. Each tab had a name, and each line had a date for things like rent payments, utility transfers, emergency car repairs, groceries, holiday gifts, and cosign loans. Each date was color-coded by recipient. When I got to the bottom of the last tab, the number read $8241037S. That's how much I had given over the course of 5 years, without saying a word. Seeing your love written down is strange. It's not about the money, really. It's about the energy, the mental space, and the expectation that you'll handle it. I opened my banking app and logged into the shared mortgage account that my mom had asked me to help with temporarily after my dad died. The payment was due in 6 days and was between $1 and $830. AutoPay was still set up to take money out of my account every month on the 10th, so I clicked Cancel AutoPay right away. There wasn't a warning statement or a "Are you sure?" question. Just a small green check mark. Done. I stared at the screen for a long time and then picked up my keys. It was a cold, clear, and quiet night. One of those nights when you feel like the world stopped for you. The lights were off when I got to my mom's house. I didn't wait or ring the doorbell. Instead, I took a sticky note out of my bag, wrote 5 words on it, and stuck it on the front door. "Let him handle it now," it said. Below it, I wrote in smaller letters, "You raised me to care for everyone else." I walked back to my car and drove home. You never taught me how to take care of myself. There was no music or tears. Just the soft hum of the engine and the steady beat of my own heart. Some people set boundaries with speeches. I did it with silence and a post-it note. When I woke up the next morning, I had missed 42 calls, 17 from my mom, 9 from Tyler, a few from Natalie, and 1 from Uncle Jack. I didn't answer any of the unknown calls, but I did listen to the voicemails. The first one was from my mom. Her voice was tight and frantic, like someone was trying to sound calm but falling apart between syllables. "Macy, what did you do? The bank called this morning to say the mortgage payment didn't go through. You can't just do this without telling us that Tyler is finally getting better. You're going to undo everything. This is not how family behaves." I read that last sentence again. This is not how family behaves. Interesting, because I thought that family behavior included ghosting your daughter on the most important night of her life. The second message was from Tyler. He didn't even try to hide his anger or defensiveness. Really, you just pulled the plug without warning. You're making Mom freak out. We were figuring it out. You could have at least talked to us first, he said. I almost laughed. The third message was from Natalie. It was the worst because Natalie didn't even try to pretend. Okay.
Wow.
So now you're punishing all of us over one dinner. Grow up, Macy. You always act like you're some martyr. Like you're the only one who works hard. Tyler has also been working hard, and he finally gets a win. And you make it about you. That one stuck with me. One dinner.
As if it were only about that.
Not the years of unknown work, the money, the birthdays spent alone, or the fact that they never celebrated me but always did so on my dime. Natalie said no, it was just one dinner. I sat on the couch with my phone in my hand, going through the missed calls like they were puzzle pieces that would never fit together to make an apology. No one said sorry or asked if I was okay. They only cared that something stopped working for me. It was never about what I gave them. It was about how quietly I gave it. When I said nothing, I was helpful. When I said no, I was the problem. Later that afternoon, my college friend Cam texted me. Hey, my mom just told me your mom called her. Cam was the only person who really knew my family well. They said you're spinning or having a breakdown. Are you okay? I looked at them for a long second and then said, no, I'm not spiraling. Cam didn't push, he just sent a short message back. Proud of you for real. That hurt more than anything else that day because it was the first time someone didn't ask me to fix something so that everyone would be okay. That was it. I hadn't let my family down. I had just stopped being their safety net. And to them, that was unforgivable. I didn't think anyone in my family would stand by me, so when my phone rang later that night and I saw Uncle Jack's name on it, I almost didn't pick it up. He never said much at family gatherings and never got involved in the drama. He just watched and observed, stayed on the edges like me. I answered. Hey, I said, keeping my voice steady. He paused for a second as if he didn't know where to begin. Macy, he finally said. I didn't answer right away because I wanted to let the silence settle. Is that what she told you? Asked if I was the problem. She said she didn't know how left out you felt. I laughed dryly.
She didn't know.
She texted me. Jack told me I wasn't important. He stopped talking. I think he said slowly in his mind, she just assumed you'd always take care of it. His tone was honest and not mean. He wasn't defending himself. Everyone did, I replied. They always assumed I'd handle it, clean it up, and never stop showing up. He let out a low, rough breath. Not because someone finally agreed with me, but because someone finally saw me. That simple line stuck with me because it was the first time someone in my family told me the truth, without trying to twist it. And for the first time since everything fell apart, I felt something close to relief. Not because someone finally agreed with me, but because someone finally saw me. No changes were made, but it helped me remember I wasn't crazy for leaving. 3 days after I stopped paying the mortgage, my mom showed up at my apartment. She didn't call or ask if I was there. She just showed up. When I opened the door, she was standing there with an old picture in one hand and a tote bag in the other. I knew her right away. She always said that picture of me as a sunflower in kindergarten was her favorite. I didn't invite her in. I just moved out of the way. She walked in slowly, as if she were visiting a stranger's home. She looked at the walls, the bookshelves, and the furniture. You redecorated, she said quietly. I took out what didn't belong, I replied. She flinched a little, then sat down on the edge of the couch and held on tighter to the picture. We're going to lose the house, she said. I nodded. I figured. Her voice cracked. Stop doing this. Just one call to the bank and no, I told her. She blinked, as if she didn't hear me. No, she said again. I'm not calling the bank. I'm not going to pay. It's over for me. Her face turned serious. Apple Store, this isn't just about money. It's about family. I almost laughed, but didn't. I said again, no. It's all about money, since that's all I've ever been to you. It's not fair. You sent me a text. I called me in the middle of my promotion dinner and told me I wasn't important. While you were having fun, Tyler rode the motorbike that I helped pay for. She opened her mouth as if to protect herself, but she didn't say anything. I told you that you didn't even act like you were sorry. You weren't sorry. You didn't make sure I got home safely. You didn't care until the payment went bad. The picture in her lap caught her eye. She said in a whisper, I didn't know how much you were hiding. I told them that was the trouble. You didn't want to understand it. You wanted it to be quiet so you wouldn't have to think about it. She turned her head away. Tyler isn't like you. He wants more help. I said, no, in a calm but strong voice. He needs to be punished. She looked up, but her eyes were cloudy. I'm your daughter and he's your brother. Keep quiet. She said, I didn't want to believe you'd just walk away. I didn't leave. I answered. I was no longer needed. She squeezed the edges of the picture with her hands. She looked like she was looking for an old trick that used to work. Fear, sadness, and hiding. This time, none of it hit. She asked, what are we supposed to do? I don't know, I replied. Figure it out. That's what adults do, like me. She looked at me for a very long time.
I didn't see a mother at that time.
I saw a woman who forgot she needed to be strong too, because she had relied so much on her daughter's strength. She stood up, smoothed out her shirt, and grabbed her bag. She turned around one last time at the door. She asked, is this really the end? I didn't answer right away. I remembered the birthdays I spent by myself, and the calls that only came when something was wrong. Giving and receiving without being seen. I said in a quiet voice, I'm done pretending this was love. She didn't fight. She just nodded, opened the door, and left. The door didn't slam. There was no screaming. There was only silence. And for once, it didn't feel empty. It felt earned. The next morning, after she left, I checked the shared mortgage account and saw that no payments had been made. No one had even tried. They were waiting for me to give in so I could be the bigger person like always. Natalie changed the name of the group chat 3 times in 1 hour. Emergency, mortgage crisis, and family unity chat. The last one had a broken heart emoji and a hand waving. I turned it off and only opened my messages once to read a text from Uncle Jack that said, I told them this would happen. You were never the weak one. Just too kind. I took a picture of the message and saved it because after years of questioning your worth, a single line of truth can feel like armor. 2 days later, the bank called. A woman on the other end of the line asked for me by name, slightly mispronounced it, and then cleared her throat. It's been 3 years since I took myself off the title, but the last 2 mortgage payments haven't been processed. Is there a reason for the delay? I calmly replied, I'm not responsible.
She paused.
I understand. But the homeowner listed you as the financial contact, and she said you always took care of it.
Of course she did.
That was the plan, right? Say nothing, do nothing, and wait for the net to catch her again. I'm afraid that's no longer the case, I said. There was another longer pause. This time, she thanked me politely and hung up. That night, Tyler showed up, but not at my door. He parked his shiny black motorcycle right in front of my apartment building like it was a peace offering wrapped in bad manners. At 6 p.m., he was wearing sunglasses and pacing next to his bike while talking on the phone loudly. I didn't go down because I knew the script: panic, blame, distraction, guilt. I stayed upstairs and crossed my arms while watching him from the window. It was the first time in years that I didn't feel like I had to go fix it. I didn't want to soften the blow or shield him from the results of his actions. I just stood there, still and detached. They weren't falling apart because I stopped caring. They were falling apart because they never learned how to stand on their own 2 feet. The next day was payday, and for the first time in years, my account didn't show a huge deduction to cover someone else's roof, a mortgage payment, a family emergency transfer, or a quiet bleed from my balance while I pretended it didn't hurt. The number was all by itself on the screen, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel bad about it. I felt stable. I made coffee, real coffee, not the cheap instant kind, and sat on my balcony where the sun was hitting my knees while I watched the same neighbors walk their dogs past the same trees. But something was different. It wasn't because the world had changed, it was because I had. That afternoon, I closed the shared mortgage account totally, deleted the login and the reminders, deleted the spreadsheet from my desktop, and created a new folder and named it after myself. I dropped a blank document inside. The title bar said, "What I owe myself." It wasn't just money. It was time, peace, sleep, birthdays, the right to say no without being called selfish, the freedom to ask for things without being told I already had enough, and the room to be without being used. Later that week, I finally took that long-awaited trip to Lisbon by myself. I bought a leather jacket I'd tried on 6 times but always talked myself out of. I also signed up for a weekend writing workshop and started reading the half-finished novel I had put down 5 years before. Page by page, it reminded me of what it was like to be my own person. That night, my phone rang again, but this time it was from an unknown number. I didn't answer because I knew what it would say. Guilt, panic, manipulation, and polite packaging. A cry for help from people who didn't know how to ask without demanding. I put my phone down, made another cup of tea, and kept writing. Some people lose their family when they leave, but I lost mine when they told me I wasn't important. All I did was finally agree with them.